life isn't fucking easy. It doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. Why let life get you down? But there's a lot of dark memories. Never wanted to really deal with, or felt like I couldn't deal with. This is not who I am. I need to be more positive. I need to just do something more with my life. What drives you is your goals. Life's too short to come to work 12 hours a day, go home, do nothing, and come back and do 12 hours again. The tools are out there. There's no reason why we're not. There's no reason why men can't, other than taking ownership of their shit and saying, okay, enough is enough.
I just want to start this episode with a message of gratitude for everyone who tunes in each and every week. Thank you. I feel like I owe you a massive thank you for all your love and all your support. You've allowed me to grow and connect with so many amazing people, have so many amazing conversations, which I'm then able to go and share with you. So thank you for allowing me to do this and supporting what I'm doing. Can I ask you a favor though? And I can't tell you how much this can change the course of the podcast, the guests that I get on, everything that happens around here, just by doing one simple thing. And that simple thing is pressing the subscribe button. It honestly helps so much in allowing the podcast and the guests to just get bigger and better. And I sit here and I think about the next 12 months and what that's going to look like. And a lot of that is going to be fueled off the back of your love, your support for the podcast and everything that's happening here. So from my heart, thank you. Let's keep doing it. And I can't wait to see what the next 12 months holds for this show and for us as a community. Enjoy the episode. Aaron, welcome to the potty, man. I think where I want to start is, what is the earliest context that we need to know about yourself to better understand the man that you are today?
I think where I am today really changed 5 years ago. Yep. Yeah, kind of change came for me was really probably 5 years ago. So I was living here with my then wife and daughter, and we just found out that we were about to have our second daughter. And then the very next day, my best friend back home in Scotland was killed. It was pretty horrific circumstances. He had an altercation with the police, and he came off the wrong side of it. And there was a whole load of media debacle about what happened and why it happened, and that for me was kind of the turning point. So from then on out, I had a year of obviously grief, trauma, thinking about, the loss of my mate, to the point where it was almost like we just hadn't spoke for a while. It's like being on the other side of the world. Like, I can quite often not speak to mates from back home and then pick up months later, and it's as if nothing. Yep. So it felt like that for a while. Like, I was looking at all of the stuff from back home and all of the social media stuff and all the news stuff, and it kind of sent me spiraling down a hole of depression, more grief than anything, but just, yeah, it was a very dark time. And then we actually went back to Scotland. It was a year after.
So is that where you're originally from?
Originally from, so all of my family are from Northern Ireland, but yeah, my dad was in the British Army, so I was born in Germany, lived in Germany for 8 years. Then we got moved to England for 2. Then pretty much from high school to before I left for Australia, I lived in Scotland, so East Coast Scotland. So pretty much high school years, teenage years, apprentice years, and then working. So
what was it like living over there?
Cold, wet. That's why I chased the sun. The area I grew up was quite a rough area. Lots of drugs, lots of alcohol, violence. Luckily, I was able to, even though it was around me, I was able to stay away from a lot of it. But it was certainly quite prevalent there. But Edinburgh and parts of Scotland, beautiful, beautiful country. Like, if anyone ever is on that side of the world, I can tell you so many places to go. Like, I miss certain parts of it. Not enough that I'd ever move back. Like, here in Australia for good. Now me and my girls we're here for good. I love the country, but not enough that I would go back to it. Partly because of the weather, but also just because of, I could go back now after being there for 12 years and they'll still be the same person standing at the same bar, talking the same shit. Just their hair would be a little bit grayer and they would be a little bit fatter. So there's not a lot of people who move out, and the people who do move out away, they do something with their life, or they actually make some of themselves away from there. They never really go back. So it's a strange one. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. Like, my girls talk about, like, they want to go back to Scotland and live when they're older, and I'm like, do it, experience it. But I mean, they're not going to have the same childhood that I had. They're not probably grow up in the same area that I did. But I have very fond memories, but I also have a lot of memories that I'm probably running away from. That's why I'm on this side of the world, I'd say.
What are some of those memories that you feel like you're running away from?
I think there's a lot of things happened in my household growing up.
Yep.
Me and my mum's partner don't get on too well. So there's a lot of dark memories from that I just feel like I just never wanted to really deal with, or felt like I couldn't deal with. And it's your mum's partner. Fortunately, she'll sometimes take his side over mine, for good or bad. But I just felt like I had to take myself out of that situation and do better for myself. There's a lot of people who will stay in the same town. They'll go to the same holiday place once a year, every year. That's their idea of an adventure, whereas I always wanted to see more of the world. So when I left, I knew I probably wouldn't be returning. A lot of people knew that as well. I've always wanted to come to Australia. Always. I think that's growing up with Home and Away neighbours. Kind of sold it for me.
Was that on TV over there?
Yeah, so when we were growing up in Germany, we had one British, I forget what it was called. It was called the BBC. It wasn't the BBC, but it was like a military channel. Yep. And pretty much it would show all the soap operas, so all the UK ones, but it was always show Neighbours and Home and Away. It was like, you speak to anyone who grew up in Germany or grew up in Europe and had that, they know all about Home and Away. It was literally like the thing to watch in the afternoon I think Neighbours was on in the afternoon, and Home and Away was on at night at dinner time. It's like a religious thing. It's like, so growing up, I always like, okay, sun, surf, that's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. And I mean, I grew up in a seaside town in Scotland, but it's nothing like.
It's not a beach compared to here.
Put it this way: there's like when the water's there, it's cold and grey. And when the water goes out, the sand reveals shopping trolleys and needles and bottles. So it's I mean, there's some gorgeous. You go northwest up the Highlands. There's some beaches that are like you think you'd be in Barbados, clear water, white sands, but you get in and it's like 3 degrees. It's freezing. So it's
interesting.
It's a cold part of the world, let's put it that way.
Because I'm actually heading over to Ireland this year.
Yeah, nice.
I'm playing in the World Cup for Oztag, so that's being held over in over in Ireland, and I'm also looking to do a little trip around Europe too. So I'm just trying to plan locations. So do you recommend Scotland?
100% recommend Scotland. So Edinburgh City is a city, pretty much has a castle up on the hill. It's just phenomenal. And there's also the under part of the city. So there's a city on top of a city.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you want to go for like proper heritage and proper old school, there, Edinburgh. And then northwest, so the Highlands. So any Braveheart, Highlander, any kind of Game of Thrones, any green mountainous film that you've seen has probably been filmed in that part of Scotland.
Yeah, okay.
And Ireland is beautiful too. I've only ever been all my family are from Northern Ireland. I've never been to the south. But I've got plenty of friends from the south, and it's just gorgeous part of the world.
Is there a divide in Ireland? Is it north and?
Yeah, so there is a divide. There's not like there's not a wall or anything like that. There used to be segregation, obviously because of the troubles that they have with so it's the Irish and the British.
Yeah, okay.
So the British, which part of the UK, came in and they've taken over Northern Ireland, and they still have it, and they're always fighting to get it back, but now they kind of live with each other. Like there are still some of the troubles going on, but not as bad as it was in like the 70s or the 80s. But yeah, so Northern Ireland is still part of the UK, so with England, Scotland and Wales, and Ireland is part of Europe essentially. So they get the euro there. So, but both of them are great places to visit.
How old were you when you came to Australia?
26.
26?
Yeah.
And you mentioned, watching Home and Away and Neighbours. Was it played a part in you wanting to come here? What else was like, fuck, I'm going to pick up my life and come to Australia?
So my uncle, probably when I was 14 or 15, my aunt and uncle came out to do the same. They were out here for about a year. It didn't come to fruition for them, but he was always telling me, "It's like, get out there, like there's plenty of work out there, you're just obviously that laid back Aussie lifestyle of being beach, party." So he kind of reinforced it for me. So pretty much I knew I was always going to come out here. So when I met my ex-wife, we were 17, just turned 18, I told her that I didn't want to get married, I didn't want to have kids, and I was moving to Australia. And she pretty much replied with, "Well, I always want to have a family. I've got a big family here and I never want to leave Scotland." And we were like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Oh, so she's from Scotland as well. She moved over.
Yeah, so we moved over together.
Oh,
so
wow.
so we did what you normally do. We got together. I bought a house, an apartment. We moved in together. We got engaged. We did all of the things that that you're supposed to do, as they say. And we got engaged in 2007. In this right? Yeah, 2007. But we planned to get married in 2010, so we gave ourselves 3 years to save up. And in between that was obviously when the GFC hit. So back home, everything was just going south quickly. There was a lot of people running out of work. There wasn't a lot of work. And, we both agreed that let's go and see some of the world before we settle down. So we decided then that we were going to go on this round the world trip, like Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, South America. We had all of these plans. And then we gave ourselves 2 years to save up, but we were just constantly eating into our savings because of everything that was going on. So we said, okay, you know what, once we're married, we'll give it a year and we'll just leave with whatever we've got. Sell everything and go and see the world. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, we'll just come home and start again. So we left with the idea of just traveling, but I had it in the back of my head that we were coming here to stay, if possible. So we did 3 months around Southeast Asia, completely loved it, fell in love with Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then we got to Australia, and we couldn't get work to start with. She got work straight away, I didn't. And then we landed in November, so there's obviously the lead up to Christmas, everyone has their staff, and then obviously between Christmas and January everything's shut down. So we had 2 months where we were just doing the kind of backpackery thing, kind of starting to run out of money. So we thought, right, it's maybe time that we start moving up the coast, because that was our plan, Sydney, then go up the coast. And Laura, my ex-wife, actually said to me, she's like, I kind of like it in Sydney. Do you think there's any way that we could stay here a little bit longer? Because we were just on tourist visas. And the company that I worked for at the time, they were sponsoring guys.
Yep.
And I said, look, I'll ask. There's no harm in asking. I'll see. And I asked, and they said, yeah, sign here. So we got sponsorship, no problem. And then we got stuck in Sydney. A lot of people said to us, visit Sydney and then just head up the coast. But we kind of fell in love with Sydney and we stayed here and just fell into the rut of working, living, and then we had a baby, and yeah, the rest is
life happened.
Yeah, it's it just from there, it kind of just, everything was awesome. Literally felt like I'm living in the country of my dreams. Me and my wife at the time, everything was great. We had a baby, we had another one coming, and then boom, my best friend died, and it was a shock to the system massively. And then, we went to Scotland. And it was when I was standing at his graveside, it kind of dawned on me. I was like, fuck, he's gone. And I was thinking this, and he used to live by a motto of tomorrow's never promised. He was the type of guy who would always put these quotes on rough ride. I've actually got a few of them on my arm.
Okay.
And tomorrow is never promised as one of his ones. And it struck me massively. Okay, life's too short. I need to reevaluate what I'm doing with life. And so I came back here to Sydney. And my mental health just went down the drain rapidly. So I was a site foreman at the time. So, I was running the jobs, I was looking after a few guys. So between that and dealing with the loss of a mate and, me and the wife were arguing and fighting and, money struggles and just everything that comes with normal life, it just felt like it was doubled because I wasn't all right. My headspace wasn't good. I never had any dark thoughts, but I felt like I could never think properly. And my ex-wife, she's had depression on and off, so she knew the signs, and she said to me, she's like, I think you need to go and speak to somebody. And being a typical man, I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then this went on for a little while longer, and I was coming home frustrated constantly over nothing, just coming home. I was frustrated at work. People coming the angry little Scotsman because I was shouting at people, and it was just this is fucked. This is not who I am. So I eventually spoke to a doctor, and they said, yeah, you tick all the boxes for the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and possibly grief. So did the 10 sessions with a clinician, got medication, got back on track, and everything was good. Everything felt like, I'm on top of this. I wasn't as angry, frustrated, And then I had a friend here die as well, pass away. Anaphylactic shock, went out for a meal, didn't come back. And that triggered it again. But it felt like this 10-folded again, because it was like another friend with young kids like mine, as the first one did. It was just reinforced that, like, okay, life's too short. I need to do something.
Puts life into perspective,
100%.
Especially when kids and stuff are involved. Like, I heard on the radio, there was this accident. This lady and her 3 kids went off the road, hit a pole, and ended up in the river upside down, and they found them ultra. And then that just hit me. I was like, fuck. Like, I couldn't imagine something like that happening. And I first thought was my daughter. I was like, I wanted to just stop work and go and get her from school. But I was like,
it hits hard.
Fuck, I could not imagine something like that happening. And to hear that it's just happened to this young family, and I think the kids were like 10, under 10, all 3 were under 10. It's like they've only just started their life, and just like that, it's ended.
And it's so easy too. Like, it can be taken away. Like, they say, oh, you take life for granted, but it's fucking true. Like, it can be, especially being in construction too, the amount of people that take, and I take, like everybody, like as a young apprentice and a young guy, took all the risks under the sun, did all the stupid shit. As soon as my girls come along, like my first daughter, I stopped and thought about everything. I wouldn't stand on the edge of things like scissor lifts or anything like that. I wouldn't do any of that shit. I was like, it's just not worth it. You hear like stories of like people walking out in front of buses, or just silly things like that, and it's like that's a whole family just being taken away from them. Right? And then if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, I think the dad was left.
I don't think the dad was in the car.
Yeah, so he's left without the family.
Yeah.
So it's like that poor guy now has like this massive void in his life where, it takes a fucking strong human being to be able to deal with that and still move on. Like, that guy's going to need a lot of support.
Yeah.
Because the thought of having, like, I'm the same as you, like the thought of coming home and, you go looking for your kids and they're not there. Like, I'm never going to see them again. Yeah. And that always played through my head when I was thinking about my 2 mates. So I started thinking about life differently. I was like, okay, I'm a carpenter. I'm doing all of these hours. I'm working away. Like, I need to do something different. So I started looking at like the kind of like affiliate marketing online and laptop lifestyle type stuff. And I was like, I'll do anything. Like, I'm a carpenter. I had 0 skills. I didn't know how to make money other than that. And I was like, oh yeah, this seems like, seems like an easy way. If it's as easy as everyone's putting out on social media and all of these people, I'll give it a try. So I joined one of these affiliate marketing programs, and it wasn't just about the sales. It was about like building yourself, like personal development. And that was my first kind of delving into personal development. I never really heard anything about it. I had no idea who Tony Robbins was. I had no idea, Grant Cardone, any of these people. I had no idea. So I went to one of their events, and it was like a 3-day event up in the Gold Coast. It was like all of these people who were part of this business, and some of them were millionaires. Like, the people who owned it were millionaires, and there's a few people that I got close with who were making money. But it was more just the positivity and the outlook on life that they all had, and they were doing something different. They were going somewhere else. I was like, fuck, I like this. I came home a completely different person. Like, my mom was here at the time from Scotland. I came home and she was like, oh, my boy's back. Like, she has this thing with my eyes. Like, my eyes like light up whenever, like, she said they'd been dark for so long. And obviously that was because I just dealt with the passing of 2 friends. So it was pretty much from then I decided that I was going to do something different. I mean, I was still working as a carpenter. I was still, dealing with my mental health. I mean, wife would still have arguments, but I was able to kind of rein it in a little bit, to the point where she actually said to me at one point, she was like, have you joined a cult? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, she actually sat me down and she was worried. She's like, you're doing all of this like positive thinking and all of this like affirmations, and you like journaling, like, this just isn't you. Like, have you done a fucking cult? Yeah, it's called personal development.
My parents did the same thing to me, man. They're like, what the hell are you doing? These people are just trying to sell you shit. It's a cult. And it's like, no, it's a lot more than that. And I think because they're not used to it. They're not used to working on themselves.
Yeah, 100%. So I sat her down and I explained to her exactly what it was, the affiliate marketing side of things, but also the personal development side of things, and like I brought her into it, and she became part of the community, and she fell in love with it straight away. So we were doing that together, and trying to build we were called the Why Not lifestylers, because we were looking for that life of like, why not? If we want anything, why not? If we want to go anywhere, why not? And that was the aim of it. But through doing that, I was seeing all of these different coaches and different mentors and all these people, and I was like, I really kind of like what they're doing. Like, they've made something of themselves, but they're giving back, and they're teaching other people, and they're lifting other people. And one thing that stuck with me was I went to see a clairvoyant, because a friend of mine had went to see one, and they said that they were able to speak to like their granddad and people who had passed on. And for me, I wanted to really speak to my best mate. I wanted to see. I've never been a disbeliever of these things, but I'm also the type of person that try it before I fully believe it. I went to see this lady, this little old woman up in North Barrow. Just no way she could have known who I was or my story. And I sat and had an hour conversation with my best mate, like from the other side. Wow. And like, we spoke about things that we hadn't spoke about since we were 18, 17, back home. There's no way this lady could have known any of that. So that for me, it was like, holy fuck. Like, there's definitely more to life than just this. Like the fact that I've just had like an hour conversation with someone who's passed away, and I know passed away, and just the things that we spoke about, like memories, things that we did, like when we were running around like nightclubs and pubs back home, and just then she talked about things about my mom and my dad, and like like my mom's health, and it was just like, how, like this lady knows, like, what the fuck is this? Like, and it completely blew my mind. Like, I was like, oh, this is possible. What else is possible? And one thing she did say to me, she's like, the best way to remember someone who's passed on is to live life like they would. And it made me think. I was like, okay, so Sheik, my mate's name, the type of guy who would pass you in the street without saying hello. Like, he wouldn't leave a party without saying goodbye to everyone. Everyone called him the true gentleman. He just lived life to the full. Like, he literally, I was like, okay, I need to do that. Like, I need to be more positive. I need to just do something more with my life. And I went to a personal development weekend here in Sydney with a company called Success in You. And as soon as the coach came out on stage, I was like, I want to do what he's doing. Like, just being able to be up there on stage and like, just grab 3 random people out of the crowd, ask them, where they're at in life, where they want to be, what's holding them back, like, and be able to, like, 3 completely different people from 3 different walks of life. He was able to give them something, he was able to, like, point them in the right direction, or at least help them. Okay, I want to do that. So then I did their coaching program. I became one of their coaches, as well as, still trying to be a carpenter, still trying to be a dad. There was a lot going on. I was trying to juggle a lot of balls. As I say, and then I decided that I was learning a lot of things, and I was looking at my life a lot different. I was a lot better by this point. Like, I was able to, I was thinking about gratitude. I was thinking about, by this time I was able to regulate the anxiety that I would have inside of me, like going to site every day, because I was still a site manager. I was doing like breath work. I was able to regulate myself so that by the time I got to site, I was able to focus on the day. I was able to like run sites of 30, 40 men and do them without too much stress. I was like, okay, there's something in this. Like, not only has it changed me, but being a tradie, there's a shitload of guys who need this that I know for a fact. They have never heard this in their life. They have never heard anything about personal development. They have never heard anything about improving their wellness. Like, the impact that it had on me at work as well as home. I was like, I need to do something with this. Like, I can life coach, men, women from all walks of life who have got goals and aspirations. I was like, I really need to give back. Like, I need to give back to the guys who I know who really need this for themselves firstly, but also for their families and for those around them, because the construction industry can be a miserable place sometimes. Like, you can go on sites and there can be guys who've been there for 20, 30, 40 years, don't know any different, but they'll piss and whinge and moan about it every single day. And they'll come back and they'll do the exact same thing. And that's how they live their life until they retire and probably die because they don't know any different. I was like, I'm definitely not going to be one of those guys. But if I can change the mindset of some of the guys on site so that they can see this, it's like, I need to get back. So I looked in, I pretty much phoned the Master Builders of Australia. And I said to them, I said, look, what is there for trades when it comes to their mental health? I was like, because I had been back home in Scotland and being here for, at this point, I was like 8 or 9 years. I certainly hadn't seen anything. And they said, oh, we have mates in construction who do the suicide stuff. And then we have like anti-depression talks. Okay. And that's it. They were like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's, the suicide stuff is awesome. But that's a fucking huge gap. I was like, is there nothing for...
Nothing preventative?
No. They're like, no, not really. I was like, well, that's where I need to be. I was like, that's far too much of a gap. I was like, we need to be getting to the guys 5, 6, 10 years before they feel the need that they have to pick up the phone because they want to end their life. And that's kind of where I'm at now. That's what I'm doing with my coaching, is trying to put out wellness, personal development for our tradesmen, because the stats for suicide in the construction industry in Australia is it's phenomenal. Like, it's out of this world. I think it's like nine people a day in Australia commit suicide or suicide, and 7 of them are men. And the stats are like 53% of those men are in construction.
Really?
And there's mates in construction who do amazing work. There's the trade mutts and the TX guys who do amazing, raising the awareness and having the conversations, and they're great for getting the word out there and for giving those guys the services. But I think it needs to be another step ahead of that. Like, I think the guys need to really delve into, why they had to pick up the phone, like where their head was at, and why they wanted to do that, and where they can like pull back in life and actually look at it all and say, okay, this is why I do this, or this is why I'm in this relationship, or this is why I drink, whatever it may be. Get to the core,
get to the root of it,
pretty much. And I know there's it's becoming more of a conversation now, but there's still so many more guys who could do with that. And I'm not saying it would solve the suicide problem that we have, but it would certainly take a fucking dent into, if the guys were more aware about why they do what they do and delve into themselves and just, invest in themselves, because they've got families that need them at the end of the day. They've got friends who need them to rely on them. There's workmates, if one guy can go into work and actually go in with a positive mindset, or not like piss and whinge and moan, it may not pick up the rest of the lads, but it'll certainly get them thinking. And that's kind of what I have been doing. I used to do it as a site manager, like when I do pre-start talks, I would always like pick up the vibe. Like, it's like on a Monday morning, everyone's either hungover, probably still drunk, or just, especially the older guys, like they've got nobody at home. Like, I met so many divorced, single, older guys who the only thing they've got at home for them is a dog and a 6-pack. And you have these conversations with them, and it's like, okay, we'll change. I don't know any different, but that's not an excuse. Like, learn, like, take hold of yourself. Like, if you can go home and sit and watch the TV, or go to the TAB and put X amount of money on like the horses or the dogs, you can pick up a book. You can YouTube a video of, like, just do something. And if you're not going to do that, and this is all you know, and there's some people who don't want to do anything other than being a trade, change your mindset about it. Like, change what it's doing for you. Like, you have a job. For the majority of us as trades, we get paid well. There's too many trades that don't get paid enough to look after themselves and put a roof over their head and food on their kids' table, and food on the table and clothes on the kids' back. It's like, change the mindset of why you're doing it. Why would you want to come to work every single day hating life? Because like, you're working with guys, and I always like jokingly used to say to the lads, like, we all know someone who's a miserable fucker, and if you don't, you're the miserable fucker. So you have to look around and see. And it's not rocket science, like, to people who have done it, but I just had this feeling that it's not the type of language that trades know, and it just needs to be. Like, even out with trades as men, as fathers, as husbands. Like, I know the difference from when I was a shitty dad, a shitty husband, like whinging, moaning, like arguing, and just being not nice to be around. Like, I know the difference to me now, completely different person. Excuse me. And I thought, if I can give that to other guys, like, saying it's going to be the most, like, sites aren't going to be massively harmonious, but it'll just like a little bit of a dent.
Yeah, it's leading by example, because I've even been caught up, because I'm in trades as well, I do air conditioning.
Yeah.
So I've even been caught up in yeah, I've been caught up in having that shitty mindset, turning up to each and every day and like hating my life. I don't want to do this. Now, I'm not passionate about trades. I wanted to ask you, is being a chippy is like carpenter, are you passionate about that?
I was.
You was?
For a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all I ever wanted to do. It's like, I'm having a lot of pride in what I do.
Yep.
So, yeah, I love doing it. And like, it's, for me back home, we would like build stuff and install it. So, you know, you're pretty much taking out doors, windows, cabinets from nothing to building them, to installing them, and then standing back, oh fuck, I did that. Like, I used to have huge pride in what I did. Not so much anymore. Like, it just pays the bills. Like, I want to do this. Like, my purpose and my passion now is this, helping men change their lives, because one, life's too short to like it, just in general, but in the construction industry I see so many miserable, sad, lonely, depressed men. Like, life's too short to come to work 12 hours a day, go home, do nothing, and then come back and do 12 hours again. Like, just if I can give the insight to guys that like there's more to life, like this isn't your identity. And what I find as well with tradies is their trade is their identity. So like a lot of people, you know, will introduce themselves as a chippy or a sparky or, you know, IoT guy. Like, that's their identity. So it's like, okay, so that's your job. Who are you out with your identity? And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, who are you? Like, who's Aaron? Who's Nick? Like, who are you out with this? And a lot of guys are like, they couldn't give me a fucking answer. Okay, change it. Like, change it. I remember having a conversation with, I was doing a night shift job, and it was with a jib rocker, and he was only a young Asian guy, and he had like 4 or 5 guys working with him, and all of his guys are awesome. He was a great guy, but he had a wife and a new baby and another one on the way. 3 o'clock in the morning, like, me and him were sitting like this across the table having like a, not heart to heart, but it turned into heart to heart.
Yeah.
And he knew that I was starting to do like the coaching. This was right at the very start. This is just as I was just before I left being a site manager to kind of pursue this fully. And I was saying to him, I was like, well, what are you doing this for? And I was just having conversations with guys just to see. He's like, oh, I know this because I came here. I want to build a life for my family. And I'm like, yeah, awesome. Like, that's what most people come to Australia for. And he's like, but I haven't seen my wife in like 3 or 4 days because, you know, we've been working day shift, night shift, day shift, night. It's like, that's awesome. I said, why are you here? He's like, oh, my guys are here. And I'm like, but you don't need to be here. Like, go home, spend some time with your family, go and see your wife, go and see your kid. It's like, but what's the bigger picture here? Like, you're at a stage now where you've got 4 or 5 guys working for you. You don't need to be here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't need to be on the tools. So it's like, start building something out with this. Like, this is only going to be here for so long. Like, construction's awesome. We just had this conversation about like where he was at in life and where he wanted to be, and I was telling him about like the things I had seen and what I wanted to do, and it's like, there's more to this, buddy. I was like, this is just a job. Like, at the end of the day, if you know, the work dries up, what else are you going to do? I came back in the next day, he's like, fuck you, Huey. I was like, what? I said, I was up all night, couldn't sleep. Now you've got me thinking about my life. It made me feel guilty. I was like, good. I says, put the fire in your belly to fucking do something. This is construction. It's a job. Like, you're building a company, you have these guys, awesome. Like, I take my hat off to you. Like, but build something else out with this, or do something else. When you guys are here working, do something else with your time, or spend time with your family. Like, it has to work for you. Like, don't go a week without not seeing, like, it's different if you're 5'4" and you're away. But he was in Sydney. And yeah, I always remember that. He was like, fuck you, you made me feel guilty. But jokingly, but he was serious. I was like, good. It's like, if I put the fire in your belly to think about doing something else other than this, or build something out with this so that you can actually like take a step back, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to do more than work. There's so much more to life, and I feel like we're on a very, very similar journey, because at the moment, for me, I'm working the day job, being trades, but it's like, I want to transition out of that into the podcasts and workshops and speaking and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I can either go to work and be a miserable fuck, or I can just turn up with a good attitude, get my work done, and then come home, be a dad, be a partner, and then work on this, work on my passion, my purpose.
100%.
Because if I turn up as miserable every day, that affects me as a parent, as a partner, as a podcaster, and I'm never going to actually make any progress, and I'm never actually going to transition out of trades because my mindset wasn't there.
Yeah.
And once I shifted that, man, my days have just been so much more better. Being able to turn up as the best version of myself.
Yeah.
Work just goes, it just flows.
Yeah.
Get it done, get out of there, spend quality time with my daughter, my partner, get to spend as much time as I want on my podcast. And it's just, it just comes from shifting your mindset. Yeah, so many men out there don't. And even the men that I work with, and even the boss, is like, he's built this company, but in fact, all he's done is create a job for himself.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to build a company, if you're going to build a business, make it work for you, as you said, have other people work so you can actually do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to, like, it's that work-life balance that everyone talks about. Like, you don't build a business to just continually be there. Like, you need to build it so that it works for you. And what I find as well is there's no, like, what drives you is your goals. You've got these aspirations of building the podcast to be as big as possible and like have the impact. A lot of guys don't have any other goals out with getting to Friday to get to the boys at the pub, get that beer, or getting to Friday to get paid. Like, most traders, they live week to week, and especially in the current climate of like the way that finances and stuff are, there's a lot of people who are living week to week, and that is their goal. But you need something else to drive you out with that, so that your day job pays for the bills, and then you go home and you can't wait to get home. So whether it's podcasting, or whether it's building an online business, or whether it's taking courses to kind of improve yourself or do something that isn't just the same groundhog shit day in, day out. And that's what I find with trades. That's like, from being on site and speaking to guys, the ones who enjoy being at work are the ones who have goals and they have things that they're thinking about out with work. The ones who are fucking miserable and don't have any, they're just not nice people to be around, are the ones that are only thinking about coming back to work the next day. And it's, I think it's a generational shift as well. Like, a lot of the older trades, they've grown up with just being told you go to school, get a trade, you work, and that's it. Like, there's no other option. You should be happy with a job. Like, I find here that it's, people are made to think that they should be happy that they've got a job. And a lot of that in the UK as well. It's like, you should be thankful you have a job, which you should, 100%. It should be your end all and be all. Like, that should just pay for your living, and you should have something else. And let's say for a rainy day type mentality, that rainy day should be something bigger. Like, and it's the drive, it's the having a purpose, it's having the goals that get people out of bed in the morning, not clocking off at 5 o'clock or waiting until Friday and falling into that groundhog loop of this is the only thing I've got to look forward to. And with the coaching, and especially speaking with trades, it's, and when it comes to like a mental health perspective, and they just won't talk about it. Like, it's hard enough to get men to open up. Trades have got like a Teflon skin where it's like, nah, that she'll be right mentality, until it's not. And then it's like, either
Sometimes it's too late.
And it's either they get to a point where they're hating life so much, they're could be in financial, whatever it is, and they think that the only way out is to take their life. And it's like, that's not, like, we need to do something to show them that there's another way. Like, it doesn't have to be this. Like, if that's the easy way out for you, then you need to teach them that it's different.
I feel like it starts from the top, though, as in like the boss, the company, creating that culture so the workers actually feel comfortable opening up, speaking about their feelings. for example, you go on a job site and you get injured or you get cut or something, it's like, "All right, just tape it up, you'll be sweet."
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not sweet.
No.
Sometimes you actually need to go get stitches or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just suck up and get back to work.
Yeah. And there's definitely, from what I'm finding with having conversations with companies, there's definitely a massive disconnect between the office and the site staff. I've had a few conversations with people where they think that there's no issue in the industry when it comes to mental health. Like, you fucking serious? Have you seen the stats? To where, you know, I offer my services to people to come in and like talk to the guys, have a presentation, or I offer my one-on-one coaching. Oh, we do that in-house. Okay, cool. I'm just curious, like, what is it you do for your guys? You know, what if you find that's work? Yeah, that's personal. That's private. I'm like, okay, so you do nothing. Like, you pretty, and you just, but it's like, okay, we need to break that stigma. That I think what I find is when it comes to the top tier, they think that if they start opening up that kind of worms, it's like, oh, what is it going to mean for us? Like, what are we going to have to put in place? I think they think it's going to be bigger than what it is. I think that, I mean, and I don't know why, because they get mental health funding. Like, there's funding there for my types of services and the mates types of service. So it's not like it's coming out of their pocket. But sometimes I think just reading between the lines when I like phone these companies, it's almost like that's an extra expense that they don't want to think about. Like, well, how about if you lose one of your men? Like, how much is that going to cost you? Like, do we have to push it as put a price on every one of your guys' heads before you'll actually listen to like what we're talking about here? Like, if you were to lose one of your guys, one of your good guys, let's just say, so it's, you know, one of their site managers or somebody who's like, they have a lot of faith in, that's why they put them in that position, but then they keep pushing them and they keep pushing them and they keep pushing them. Like, what's the detrimental effect to your company if that guy does do something to himself and he's not there the next day? A lot of them are like, are they just going to replace him? Like, and there's some people who are irreplaceable, especially smaller companies. You know, there's some people who have been there through like all of their life. They know certain parts. They're the ones that you should be checking in with. They're the ones that you say, okay, what can we do for you? Like, they're the ones just throwing them an extra couple of $100 at the end of the week, or, you know, bonus at Christmas is awesome. It's going to help them. But you should really be checking in with them and saying, right, okay, like, what's going on? Where can we improve? And there's a lot more people doing that now, but I think we're a long away from where it actually needs to be. And yeah, you're right. It needs to come from the top down, but unfortunately, what I'm finding is it's the boots on the ground, it's the site managers, it's the health and safety officers who I'm talking to. Office don't want to hear it. So what they're saying is come onto site, have a conversation, you know, do your presentation, and then if it goes well, you know, then we'll put up to management and say, you know, we had Aaron and this is the feedback that we had. Then, okay. So it's, yeah, I'm at the point where I'm having that many conversations with people. I'm trying to work out what's the best way. Like, do I have to put like a financial number on each one of their guys' heads before it makes sense to them? And for me, that's a fucking stupidly inhumane thing to do.
Sad, eh?
That's what it comes down to. But I'm also at the point where I don't really care now, as long as I get in front of the guys. Yeah. As long as I can get my message out to them and show them that, look, this is where I was, okay? Like, it's not rosy, but it also doesn't have to be the end all be all. Like, there's so many people who have picked their life up, or they've changed their outlook on life, and they're doing more than just this. This is just a fucking job. Like, yes, we're tradies. It's the identity that we have. It's like, lose that. This is just a job. Like, you don't see people working in, you know, offices who, oh, I'm an office worker. Like, they don't, it's strange. I don't know what it is with trades. I don't know if it's because it's the pride that we have.
I was going to say, is it like pride, ego?
I think it is, which is, you know, I probably have, like, when you asked me, am I proud about what I did? Yeah, I have that. And I guess I can probably be guilty of that before as well. Like, you know, as a carpenter, and that was my identity, my pride. I'm like, oh, we need to get away from that. Like, we need to get to the point where it's just a job. It pays you. Who are you out with that? And that's something I feel like I need to push more, just to kind of get a bit of to help the guys realize that, okay, this is just a job. Like, you can be replaced. Like, you know, with the amount of companies that are folding just now, you can find a job the next day. Like, it's, who are you? like out with all of this, like who are you? What do you want to be? Like who are you at home? Like who are you for your family? Who are you for yourself? Who are you for your friends? Like it's just having those conversations and just pushing them to just think out of the box and not keep falling into the Groundhog Day of doing the same shit, hating it.
So if I was to ask you, like, who are you?
Who am I? Right now I'm juggling a little ball. So my number one is a father. So I have my 3 girls. Like that's my favorite job. Like I always wanted to be a dad.
And it is a job.
It is. Yeah, it's definitely it's a emotional roller coaster up and down. Like I love the girls one minute, but I'm happy to give them back to their mum the week that it's her week to have them. I'd say my father first, definitely, because they're my world. And then obviously I'm taking on the coach role because that's like my next passion. I'm also it's identity right now is I feel like I'm kind of spreading myself in a lot of places. So I mean, I'm a partner, a girlfriend, I'm an ex-husband, failed ex-husband to my ex-wife, which is something that I'm not overly proud of, but it's kind of given me a few lessons in life and other things to pass on to other guys of how not to do it. So I'd say I'm a father, coach, and a partner.
Yeah, we wear multiple hats.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't just be one identity.
Yeah,
like there's so much more to us. And you mentioned being a father. What are some of the lessons that you've learned in becoming a father about life?
So for me, it's patience, which is something I lacked a lot of. Like I grew up in a military household because my dad was in the British Army, so I grew up old school, like my mum and dad smacking me if I did something wrong, and coming from a position of discipline rather than not disrespect, but definitely from an area of discipline, like you'll do as you're told. And that's how I thought I was going to parent. That's kind of what I thought parents did. You tell your kids to do this, and if they don't listen, you smack them, put them in line. Like they need to learn the respect. They need to learn who's boss type thing. But when I became a father, didn't feel as though that's the route that I wanted to go down. Like I started off trying to discipline my kids, smacking them, and their mum would say, that's not how we're going to do it. And I was like, but that's how you parent. And then obviously going down the personal development route, I also kind of was like, right, okay, well, I'm learning so much about myself as a man that I didn't know. What can I learn as a parent? So I started reading like Conscious Parenting book, how, this is how we used to parent and this is how you do. And a lot of it I was like, okay, sounds very woo-woo and wishy-washy, and, you ask your kids what they want and you don't shout at them. Okay, I'm understanding that, but I also still have this kind of authoritative figure in the back of my head, like, the kids need to learn that there's boundaries. They need to learn that they need to be respectful of things, and it's a juggle. But I'm very thankful that a lot of people, they comment on me and my ex-wife with the kids that are like, they say please and thank you, and they're really good with their manners. So whatever we're doing something right as co-parents. I don't know what it is, but I think it's definitely patience for me, letting them do their own thing and not getting as kind of angry and shouty as I used to. Like I'd flip out if they didn't do what they did when I asked them to do it straight away.
Yeah, it's that fine balance between letting them be them, but also you being that authority figure and having that discipline within that relationship between you and your child. So it's a fine line, and I think when it comes to parenting, as long as you feel like you're doing the best, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone telling you that you should do something, you should do it this way. Like there's all books on different ways on how to parent. It's like, just do what you feel is best. And I think as a parent, our biggest obligation is to just do better than our own parents.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing and your backstory, like you're definitely doing a better job than your parents.
Yeah, and I've come to the realization that they didn't know, like they grew up in a generation where things were different. Like they didn't know what they didn't know type thing.
Doing the best with what they have.
Pretty much, yeah. And I'm not saying that I certainly by all means didn't have a horrendous childhood. There's certainly things I would have liked to have been different. But now being a parent and like looking at how it is to be a parent, it's not an easy job. And they were parenting in a time where there wasn't Google and YouTube and people telling you, if you do this, this is what's going to have the effect on your child. So maybe you try this. And also they only learnt from their parents and their parents. I found that the past couple of generations, they came from wars. Like we had World War II, we had World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Gulf War. Like our parents have parents and grandparents have came from a state of almost like shock and awe all of their life. And, being kind of soft and nicey with the kids wasn't the done thing because fucking living in wartime. Yeah, there was shortages of things. There was there was famines. There's a completely different. We live in a completely different world now, where like the only thing our kids really need to worry about is how long they get on their tablet, or like how long they can stay on TikTok. It's like
first world problems.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like if that's the problems that we're having, you can go down the route of people arguing about everything and anything now. It's like some of the things, I think, if you're arguing about, let's take the kids who like the pronoun thing that's going on right now. Like people are not sure what sex they are. God. And it's like, if that's all we have to worry about, we're doing all right. Like and what I mean by that is, like, especially my mum and dad, they grew up in Northern Ireland, so there was there was bombings, there was shootings, there was all this horrific stuff going on. People who grew up in World War II, you'd have air raid killers, you'd have bombings. Vietnam, dads would come home from Vietnam War, or young guys. Like, third world problems is such a fucking good phrase to use right now for how our parents and our past generations have grown up. And I can understand why they grew up with such a, I don't want to say a fucked up mentality, but they had a survival mentality. Yeah, they had to have to get on with life. And that phrase, like hard times create like soft men and good times.
Yeah, is it?
Soft times create weak men. Hard times, I'm going to completely butcher it.
I heard it on Joe Rogan as well. Yeah. How are you going?
You know where I'm going with. I'm going to completely butcher it, but I think we're definitely in the stage of the soft men right now. And I don't even know where I'm going with that one now.
I'm trying to remember the phrase now. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. Something like that.
Yeah, we'll have to do it. But yeah, so pretty much.
A quick word from our sponsor, One Stop Pod. If you're looking to start a podcast, but you're sitting on the fence because you don't know where to start, or maybe you even already have your own podcast and you want to take it to the next level, One Stop Pod can help you from our high quality podcast studio, post-production services, and even podcast mentoring to ensure that you have your foundations, structures, and systems in place to ensure that your podcast can grow and blossom. This is honestly something that I wish I had when I first started my podcast, because when I dived in, I had no clue what I was doing. I had no guidance, no information. I was just like, okay, what do I do? With One Stop Pod, we got everything for you. All you have to do is focus on having the conversations that you want to have. If you're interested in finding out more about our services and our packages, feel free to check us out on Instagram at onestoppod_. Let's get back to the podcast.
What I was going with that was that parenting is completely different now because we're living in a completely different generation. And what our parents did for us, we now look back and say, that's not how I would parent. It's different, changing with the times. It's a different mentality.
And that's the good thing about parenting, is that you can parent the way that you want to parent.
Yeah.
And you can instill the things that you want to instill. You don't have to do what your parents did or what other people tell you. It's just, as I mentioned before, doing what you feel is best and doing the best with the tools that you have.
Yeah.
But always looking to evolve and to add new tools as well. Because as a parent, I feel like if you just stick to what you know, sometimes you can just get caught in that rat race of like what your parents went through.
Oh, yeah.
So you always have to be learning as well, because there's always new stuff to pick up on and to implement. Yes, you don't have to implement every single thing, but I think it's still a good thing to learn about it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, have the knowledge. Like, that reminds me of a phrase that when I was first starting out as an apprentice, and I did it in a workshop, and it was a workshop with like maybe 6 or 7 different guys, and they all did certain things differently. Like, would use a router differently, or they would put things together differently. And I remember my boss at the time saying to me, he's like, right, go and work with all of these guys. Like, do as they instruct you. And it's like, work out what works for you and take the best from all of them. And that's what will make you a good tradesman. It's not doing it the one way. It's like picking the best in what's out there, putting it all together, and then finding your own way. And I kind of, like you say, it's like you can educate yourself, you find out knowledge. Everything, you're not going to resonate with everything, but at least if you have the tools there, at least if you have the knowledge, then, and you're constantly, like, I'm a massive believer of growth, and that stems from just wanting to find out more about not only me as a man, but me as a father, and like, why we do certain things, or what it is that triggers us, and why we do it. And as a parent, it's like, that's just a fucking ever-evolving job. Like, I have my 3 girls. They're all 3 completely different ages. They're all 3 completely different personalities. And that's only going to evolve over time. Like, when they all hit teenage stages and get, like, they start dating, and like all of it is going to be like, I'm
Lock the doors.
That is going to get a shotgun license. But it's, you're constantly evolving. And that's one thing that I really love about personal development. I'm constantly, if I'm not reading something or I'm listening to a podcast or an Audible, it's just that thirst for knowledge and knowing more, gaining more. And I mean, I might not use a lot of it, but at least so that if something comes up, parent, or even at just day-to-day life, you have the knowledge to respond rather than react. You can actually take the time to go, okay, this is why, the kid's screaming in the middle of the shop for a fucking chocolate bar. Rather than just snatching it off her and saying, no, it's not okay, she's maybe hungry, tired. There's all of these things that, till you're a parent, you don't really know. Like, people can judge you in the middle of a shopping centre because your kid's losing it, but it's like, sometimes it's as easy as just giving them a chocolate bar just to, one, for peace, which sometimes, especially as a single parent, like, I'm a co-parent, so me and my ex-wife share our kids 50-50. I have a new partner and I have a girlfriend. So when I say I'm a single parent, I don't mean I'm like constantly on my own. But for 7 days of the week, I have 3 girls myself, unless my partner's there. So like, when you go to the shops with the 3 of them, like, our local shopping centre knows all of my girls, because when they go, they're these 3 blonde, cute as kids. And the amount of times people say to me, "Oh, your girls are so cute." I'm like, "You want to take them for an hour? I'll come back. I don't mind. Like, you can take them." But yeah, I've had to learn pretty quick about the battles that it's worth fighting for, especially with 3 young girls, where it's like, I can stand my ground and say, no, you're not getting that, no, you're not getting that. But sometimes it's for the sake of getting through the day. Sometimes it's like, okay, you do you, and then we can revisit this. So it's definitely a ever evolving job.
Yeah, and one thing I've learned is, like, when children are in that heightened state of emotion, if you go and discipline them, as like smack them or something like that, like, they can't process anything that's going on in that moment.
Yep.
So they're just going to get more and more angry, frustrated, emotional, where in that state you should be trying to calm them down, slow their mind down, because then they can actually process what's happening. And then you can give them the discipline of, hey, like, maybe you shouldn't do that. Let's go do this instead of just hitting them and getting angry and yelling, because then their mind just goes 100 miles an hour and you're getting no solution then. And then you're both getting worked up.
Yeah.
It's like, you're fighting each other. What's the point?
Yeah, 100%. And they say that, like, you'll never win a war against an angry 3-year-old or a hungry 3-year-old, because, like, they have no reasoning not to get the thing that they want. I actually saw something the other day, and it kind of hit home. It's made me stop and think about a lot of things. and it was an interaction between a mum and a little toddler, but it was from the toddler's point of view in her head. So it was like she was trying to reach for something in the kitchen, but the mum was like saying no, and she's like, I'm just hungry, why is she not giving it to me? Like, I was able to eat before, I'm not able to eat now. She's like, now why is she shouting at me? Like, I'm not doing anything. What? Like, but from mum's perspective, the little one was just screaming. Like, there was no talking, there was nothing. She was just sitting crying, and all she wanted was chocolate. But the mum was saying, no, you've eaten already, you know, we're going out, or whatever it was. And it was like, in that little one's mind, all she wants is, she can't regulate, she can't verbalize what it is that she wants. It made me think, I'm like, fuck, I wonder if that happens with all of my girls. Like, you know, they don't have the words to say, you know, Daddy, I'm feeling, I try and encourage open conversation with my kids. So I'm like, you know, every night we sit down at the table and like, how was your day? Like, I'm a big believer in letting them have their say. You know, what was going on for you? You know, what is going on for you? And these are all things I've learned through the books. Like, I didn't know any of this before. And we're all able now to sit down at the dining table and like, talk about each other's days, like what we were grateful for, what was a good thing, what was a bad thing. And I now know that having that sit down and conversation and that kind of one-to-one communication, they're more open to telling me things rather than if we just sat in front of the TV and didn't have any conversation. So there's little things like that that I'm massively grateful for that I've learned, because just that that connection, I think if I was never taught that, I could easily just make them dinner. We would all sit down and then they go off to their rooms. But just taking that half an hour, 45 minutes to connect with them, it's definitely made a huge improvement on our relationship. And you know, being a single dad, like they've been taken out of their comfort zone of having mummy and daddy at home. So it's been new for them to adjust to a single parent household, 2 different households, and they're so resilient. Like, I think they probably dealt with it better to start with than what me and their mum did. Now things are a lot better, but it's like, you know, kids are resilient. I think if we don't give them enough credit for what they've got going on in their own little brains and how they're able to adapt. But yeah, I'm definitely thankful for having the knowledge of how to consciously parent and rein in a little bit of the discipline and the shouting. I think I definitely get more from them when I'm on their level, and that fine balance of, like you say, like being the loving parent, but also being the kind of the disciplined parent.
Yeah,
definitely a balancing act.
Definitely is, and I feel like you're doing a pretty decent job at it, and you're building that trust within your relationship with them.
Yeah,
every night sitting down at the table talking about how you're feeling, gratitude. Right now in their life, they may not see it, but when they reach teenage years and something serious may happen, they're going to be able to come to you because they're going to trust you. You're going to be like, I can have this open and honest conversation with my dad because I know he's going to be there for me. He's going to support me through this. So starting them young, having these conversations young, you may not see the effects now, but later on you definitely will.
Yeah, 100% actually. You saying that is, I'm very conscious that I want to have that relationship with them, that, you know, when they get to those teenage years and, you know, we all do silly things and stupid things, that they're not afraid to come to me. Like, I don't want the relationship where they're trying to hide things from me. If they do that, I want them to come say, Dad, we fucked up, I need your help. Like, I'm conscious that I want to have that. I want to be that type of parent. I don't want to be the cool parent that like buys them beer and shit like that, but I want to be, you know, that if they do something that they shouldn't, or if, you know, I want them to be able to come to Dad, we fucked up, like, we need your help type thing. So
yeah, that's it, because we've all been through all that.
Yeah, 100%.
I seem to forget that though.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, like they think that like everything that they're about to do, we didn't do. We try and get over our parents.
That's a big secret.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I remember like parents saying that, and it's, you know, when you're a kid, you're sneaking out, you know, sneaking home drunk, and you're doing all of these things. You think, oh, yeah, they did not. They know fine well because they did it themselves, and my girls will be the exact same. So just. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have my hands full.
Definitely. It's 3 girls. Wow. Have fun with that.
Yeah. I'll keep you posted.
You mentioned earlier failed ex-husband.
Yes.
From our conversations before, it sounds like you have an amazing relationship with your ex-wife, and, you know, from what you're speaking, it's like, sure you are still together? Like, this is a great relationship.
Yes.
And you told me a bit about what happened, and I feel like we should dive into that a lot more and a bit deeper, because I feel like a lot of men and even myself have gone down that path as well. So Now, you say failed. What was failed about it?
Yeah, so for me, it was infidelity. So I went elsewhere in our relationship, and I got caught out, and that was the turning point in our relationship, obviously. And I feel like I've failed because I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to be the like, I've never cheated in my life, so it wasn't something that I ever wanted to do. And looking back now, I think, how the fuck could I have done that? But at the time, I was so lost in my own head of doing it. Like, I didn't see any wrong in what I was doing, because there was things lacking in our relationship that I thought I deserved, that I should have had, that I wasn't getting. Physical things, communication. There was just, and that goes both ways. It wasn't just like from my ex-partner, like that. I wasn't giving her what she needed either. But at the time we didn't see it. Like, at the time we were just living life. We just had a new baby. There was definitely a loss of connection between us. It didn't just happen overnight. Like, it's happened over a long period of time. Like, we've been through a rough few fucking years between like our friends passing away and like our own mental health issues, and just a whole build up of things. I couldn't put my finger on the point of when I fell out of love with her, but pretty much that's what it came down to. When I got caught cheating and she asked me what was going on, that was one of the first things I said. I was like, I just don't think I love you anymore. We lost, we'd been together since we were 17. Like, we lived in Scotland. We built a home together back there. We came traveling. We did all these things. Like, on the outside, we were living the best
Built
life.
a life with this person.
Built a life, like, with best friends, like, had kids, we'd good times, bad times, but I just wasn't happy. And at the time, when I was up to no good, and I was like texting and doing the things, and then eventually it became physical, and I met someone. And thinking back now, I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? I had a wife, 3 kids, almost a newborn baby, but I was just so stuck in my own selfishness. Like, I just wanted something for me. Like, I felt that I could have these 2 lives almost. So I could be the dad, I could be the husband, but then I could be Aaron. And I could, how I thought I was ever going to do it, I have no idea. And I know there's probably a lot of men who will resonate with that. But yeah, my brain at the time, for whatever reason, I thought, yeah, that's how I'm now going to live my life.
I can get away with it. I can have my cake and eat it.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. That's what it was. And I think from speaking to other people who have been in that situation and doing a little bit more research into it, it's the rush of it. It's knowing that you're doing something that you shouldn't and getting away with it. And it's almost like it becomes I'm not going to say an addiction, but there's definitely a draw to it.
It's like a dopamine hit.
Pretty much. That's exactly.
Chase.
You know that, you've got someone who's chasing you, you're chasing them, you're doing something that you shouldn't. Doesn't make it right by any means, but at the time it was just how I thought I was going to live my life. And yeah, I now know that I should have said to my wife, like, this isn't working. Like, we had a toxic house where the 2 of us were arguing all of the time. We were fighting, like, the kids were getting in between us and splitting us up. And I was just like, in hindsight, I wish I had said, right, okay, we need to separate, or need to take some time apart, or just tell her how I was feeling. But I didn't know how to. Like, I didn't want to break up my family. That was in the back of my head. I was like, I'm not going to break up my family. I don't want to have, I don't want to leave my wife. I don't want to leave my kids. I don't want to be that father that does that. But I also was like, well, I have like certain needs that I need for myself. And why should I not have that? Why should I not have someone who chasing me? Like, like, it's hard to explain what I was thinking at the time, other than just getting what I needed and my own selfishness. Now, my ex-wife, we have a great relationship. Like, we're probably better now as co-parents and friends than we were towards the end as husband and wife. And she realizes, and thankfully, we've sat down and we've had many honest conversations about it. And I've told her how I was feeling, what I did, and she doesn't. I think I know she doesn't agree with what I did, but she kind of understands where my head was at. And, she said she's forgiven me for it, and we were just moving on for the best for our girls. And yeah, we have, we co-parent 50-50. Her and my new partner are really good friendly, which I am thankful for, that both of them, because I know there's a lot of women who can't do that. I hear horror stories of the ex-wife using the kids against their husband, and this happens a lot. And if people were just to put their ego aside, sort out their own shit between them as man and wife, whatever it may be, for the sake of their kids would be happier. And I have conversations with my kids now, I'd say to them, are you guys happy? And now and again they'll say, we wish you and mommy still together, but we understand that, there's not so much shouting in the house. You guys are happier, mommy's definitely happier, and you can see that you're happier. So we had the conversations with them about it. And for me, that is probably one of the most important things, that they feel safe in both our houses. They see that we're happier, that we're getting on with, they have a great relationship with my new partner and her kids. And it was definitely a huge learning curve in life. And it's not something that I wish that I had done, but I certainly learned a lot from it. And I wouldn't say I'm thankful that it happened. I wish I was able to say to her, I want to separate. I wish we were able to do it without all of the deceit and the hurt that I caused. Because, obviously when you do that, you have the friends that take sides, and you have, you lose a family. I've got my wife's family was close to for years. They don't speak to me now, which, can completely understand. I hurt their daughter, their sister, their cousin. I completely get that. So one thing that I can say from it to anyone who's going through that or thinking about going through that, have the honest conversations. That's one thing that I've learned the hard way. Have the conversations, because whether it's good or bad, it's so much easier to do without the hurt and the lies and the pain that comes with that. And and my new partner knows all about what I did, and we've had the conversation of now honesty, or upfront honesty, is the way to go with everything. And it's kind of how now I'm living my life that way. If there's something that I don't like, whether it comes to a situation, or that just have to be open and honest, because at the end of the day, if you lie about something and it just snowballs and snowballs, it's just the pain gets worse, the hurt gets worse, and it's some people will probably never come back to me because of what I did. I completely understand that. I just know that for me now, I'm in a better place mentally than I was before. It has been to the detriment of my marriage, but we're both in a better place for it, and our kids are in a better place for it. So, lesson and a blessing, I guess.
That's what I say all the time. There's always a lesson and blessing to come out of every moment. And, I think it's a great lesson for your children as well, seeing it, because they now know that, hey, when they're older, I'm not going to stay in a relationship if I'm not happy.
100%.
I know that I need to have an honest conversation if I'm not feeling love in this relationship, if my desires are not being met. So they're learning all these elements on how a relationship should be.
Yeah.
And not to stay in a relationship if it's not like that. And learning the dynamics of how a relationship should work if they were to split with a partner and there's kids and stuff involved. It's that is amazing. It's so rare to find relationships like that where the ex-partners are like friends.
Yeah.
And then they get along with the new partners and all the kids and stuff like that. It's that never happens.
I'm hearing that a lot, and I'm hoping that through sharing that story, and we went to another thing that we did when we separated was we went to a counsellor to separate properly, to kind of, I don't even know if that's the thing to do, but for some reason we thought let's go and seek advice about how we do this properly, and that's what the counsellor said. She's like, you guys have got it sorted. What you're doing is, this doesn't happen. It's you guys could probably, no, write a book on how to properly separate. And I would like to do that at some point when my ex-partner is ready, because obviously it's a dual-sided thing, and there's a lot of stuff that she's still processing herself. But if we can do it and we can put our shit aside, don't kind of lets other people see that, okay, maybe there is another way to do this, not the way that we keep seeing us, like the father being dragged through the courts or the mother holding the kids against the father. And I mean, I think because both of us were already on a kind of personal development path and we were doing our conscious work, I think that has definitely helped us. Like, we were able to kind of understand each other's feelings. And I know a lot of people don't do that. There's a lot of people that have no idea about like letting their ego go and looking at it from the other side. Like, I'm very blessed that my ex-partner is the way that she has been, because so many wives who take their husbands for everything, and it's at the detriment of the kids. Like, I don't care what anybody says. If you're using your kids to get to your ex-partner, irrespective of what they've done, that's a shitty thing to do. The kids should be the most important part of that. Like, they've already had the safety of their home split. Why would you want to pain them by holding their dad hostage to seeing them, vice versa, their mum? I think it happens more for men. I'm not saying it doesn't happen for women, but there's a lot of men who don't get to see their kids, or they get dragged through the courts. How does that benefit anybody? The finances that go, like the financials to take through court is horrendous. I spoke to a company, Toolbox Australia they're called, and they help guys go through the separation and the divorce part. And what they've been telling me is just like, how do people fund that? Like, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through courts just to get to see your kids. And, like, why would you do that? Why would you want to do that to... And I think it comes down to the person's ego. They've been hurt by their partner, so they want to punish them because they punish me. Or because they've hurt me, sorry, they want to punish them. But it's like, look at what you're doing to your kids. Like, how is that affecting your kids? They're not getting to see their dad. Now, not all dads want to see their kids. I know that. There's some shitty dads out there who just bail. And, that's one thing I've learned through... Once I separated and started dating and speaking to a lot of other people who have been through it and other women, it's like there's some dads out there who just bail and have no forethought of thinking back about their kids. I'm like, how the fuck they do that? I have no idea. Like, my girls were my number one priority when everything went south. Like, how a father can just up sticks and leave, or the mother, like mums do as well. I have no idea. Like, it was my last thought. And a lot of people said to me, like, don't leave the kids, like, you need to be there to support the kids. I was like, that was never not an option. Like, I was never not going to support my girls. I was never not going to be there as part of their life. Like, I didn't separate from their mum to fucking sail off into the sunset. And that's never, but there's so many people who do that. So I can understand people's situations and circumstances can be definitely different. But if you had to put your shit aside, your ego aside, for the benefit of the kids, you can definitely have a better relationship with your ex-partner. And, if the new partner's coming up, like, there's definitely no reason why you can't.
Definitely. I can really resonate to the whole part of your desires not being met and you feeling you have to go elsewhere. Because there was a period in my life, and first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing that, because not many men open up about that.
True.
So appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
And on my end, as I said, there's a period in my life where my relationship with my partner, we're still together now, we work through it. But I never felt comfortable opening up to her. Yet I blamed her, and then I went elsewhere to try and get that connection, and have that conversation and feel comfortable opening up. And looking back now, I was like, that makes no fucking sense. Like, you had a person right there. All you had to do is have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Yet I felt the better option was to go elsewhere.
Do you know what it was? Do you know what it was that was holding you back from that?
I just didn't feel comfortable. I felt like she was going to judge me or get angry or maybe her even leave herself.
Yeah.
Like there was lack of physical touch, just connection, communication. I just felt like we were on different wavelengths.
I get that. Yeah.
And I felt like if I was to open up and say that to her, it would make things worse. So I kind of just put it under the table, blocked it out.
Yep.
And then go over here.
Yep.
And as you said, kind of live this other life and talk to different people and get that other side of me that I wanted to get at in my own relationship over here.
Yep.
So then I thought it would kind of balance itself out.
Same. I was the exact same. That's exactly where. Now looking back at it, like that's what I was doing. Like,
never works.
No, 100% never works. Like the honest, open conversation about it. And look, you can have those honest and open conversations with your partner, and they may not see it the way that you see it. And if that's the case, then that's when you say, okay, well, we either go and speak to somebody about it, like we go and see a counselor, or we speak to somebody who's going to help us, or we just cut our losses and we move on. Like there's some, I hear so many men and guys in that exact same scenario who, their wife holds sex against them or doesn't give it, they don't have the same sex drive as them, or like they think, there's so much going on, especially with mothers. And I now see that now, like looking back at, my wife wasn't getting what she wanted from me. Like our love languages were completely different. She had like 3 kids to look after. I, at this point, was just at the tail end of one of my kind of miserable, she said that she felt that she was walking on eggshells. So I was going through my own shit in my own head, and my outlet was to go elsewhere and not have to worry about conversations with my wife, not have to worry about the kids, not have to worry about, trying to build the coaching businesses, not trying to, it was like you're stepping out of one life into another.
Putting this different mask
100%. You don't have to worry about it. And what I found was, there's so many other people out there, women as well, who were looking for the exact same thing. So when people say it's just men, it's fucking bullshit. There's women who have their lives, they have their husbands, they have their jobs, they have kids, but they want something else as well. Their husband doesn't want to touch them. Their husband doesn't have the drive, or they've lost connection, but they want it. And there's it goes both ways. There's male and female. And what I found was, because I've looked into a lot of this, because I wanted to understand the psychology and why I did what I did and why other men and women do it. And they say that women cheat, or women go looking for love, whereas men go looking for sex.
Yeah.
And so if you're not getting sex at home, you go looking for it. And if the woman's not getting connection and love at home, they'll go looking for it elsewhere. And it always comes to the form of attention from somebody else, which obviously leads to, whether it's DMing, whether it's phone calls, whether it's actually meeting up and doing things. And it's because they're not getting the connection, or they're not getting what they want from back home. And it's like, okay, that's makes so much sense, but also communicate that. Fuck's sake, that's one thing if I've learned anything from it, is communicate. Say that. Don't be afraid to say that. And if your partner does go off at you, and like you say, you're scared to say it because it'll cause argument, it's so much easier to have an argument and sort it than have the betrayal and have
shitstorm,
guilt, and because I still have guilt about doing it. It's not something that, my girls, they know we separated, they don't know why. I will tell them, and when they're at the right age, it's not something that I want to hold from them. It's not something I'm overly proud of, but also I'm not going to lie to them, and I'm not going to hide it from them. It is what it is. It's
just when they can understand, then
100%, yeah. And they can judge me, they can hate me, they can, hopefully by the time they get to that age, we've all moved on like we are doing, and they can say, and then they're of the sense that, okay, we understand. We don't agree with it, Dad. You shouldn't have done that to Mum, but we understand why you did what you did, where you were, and it's for the best. But yeah, definitely just fucking have those conversations. It's so much easier to sort them if you haven't done that shit.
That's it. And for me, because I got caught doing what I was doing, we had a big conversation about it. And then once I actually opened up about it, I was like, why didn't I just do this in the beginning? Because now we can better understand each other. And you mentioned before, guys go out looking for sex and girls look for love kind of thing. It's like, okay, ask your partner, like, what does love look like for them? Like, what do they actually desire? What do they want?
Yep.
Because then you can be like, okay, cool, I can give that. Instead of running around like a chicken with its head cut off.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're so lost that you have to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
But just by having that conversation, like, hey, what do you actually want out of this relationship? And going both ways and going, hey, like, this is what I need as well.
Yeah.
And, maybe every desire is not going to be met.
No. It's common minds as well.
That's it. But as long as you understand each other, you're on the same page, and you can then show that person love, and if you're not getting physical touch, they can maybe give you more physical touch, and vice versa, like give and take. It's going to make the relationship so much more better when you're actually open and honest about what you desire and what you need.
Yeah, and it's like, knowing what your partner's love language is. It can be so basic once you understand what it is. Like it can be so, like you say, you're not running around with a headless chicken. Like, you know what it is that your partners want. You know what it is that you feel comfortable with. You know what it is that makes them in turn want you. Like, it's that compromise of, and the thing is, what we now realize is that, we've changed so much in the past 5 years with everything that's gone on. Like, the person who she loved and I loved was the person 5 years ago. Like, the person that we grew up with. Like, she now says, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know who you are, which is understandable. I think that's quite common when people separate. And it's like, you're not the same person who I married. I'm like, I get that. Like, we're married 10 years ago. Like,
all change. We all
on the other side of the world. Like, we've both went through our mental health journey. We've both went through and we're still going through, like, the personal development, finding ourselves. That cliche of finding yourself. It's fucking true. Like, until you get lost on the journey of, marriage, kids, work, life, If you don't know, actually, a lot of people don't know who the fuck they are, what they actually want from life and where they're going, because you just get stuck on the rut. You just get that conveyor belt of life. And once you actually, like, stop, think, pull back the kind of lens on, like, you start finding out more about yourself, who you are, what it is you like, what it is you want from life. It's like, okay, maybe a completely different person to who that person married. And, your love languages can change. Like, your desires can change, what you want. But if you don't communicate that to each other, it's like having a manual, let's say, for your laptop, but it's a Toshiba. So you're reading from the Toshiba laptop, but it's actually the Mac that you should be reading from. Like, and it's a very basic way to put it, but it's like, when you know someone's love language, you know what it is that drives them, that they want, that, once you know those things, you can compromise. You can, it can be something as simple as, like, bringing your wife flowers. And that's a very cliche thing that I never ever used to do. It can be something like complimenting her, and vice versa. It can be, your husband coming home from work, and rather than, like, hand him the trash straight away or saying, oh, go and cut the grass, it can be like just a cuddle, like a hug. Something as simple as your day
today.
Yeah. It could just be that great. And it just, these simple little things that everybody takes for granted. And we all do it because we fall. But, if that's what gives your partner comfort, if that's what, your partner can have a shitty day and all it takes is for you to say, hey, like, how are you? What can I do for you? Like, something as simple as that. And that can completely lift the mood. And that means, once the kids have gone to bed, you can have some time together and you can have more connection and love and relationship, opposed to coming in and just shouting back and forth. And that's where we were at. Like, we didn't know what we wanted because we just got stuck on that rut of life, work, shit that we've been through for the past couple of years. And lesson and a blessing.
So, yeah, just by getting the simple things right, man. And even today, I finished work early, got home, I cooked dinner. So when my partner got home, she didn't have to worry about that. And she goes, like, babe, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's all it took. Me just cooking dinner. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And it creates such a positive shift in her day, because she probably thought, I've got to go home, dinner, whilst looking after our daughter, like, how am I going to do all this, stress, overwhelm? No, come into a clean house, dinner's already cooked for you. Yeah. How good.
you appreciate that little step. She has her appreciation for you has leveled up. It's like, he didn't have to do that, but he did. And it's like little things like that it doesn't take much to do. But if you don't know what you don't know, then
that's it, right?
Easy.
It's not. This conversation has been very interesting. I actually thought we're just going to be talking about trading and stuff the whole time. And then, I feel like lately a lot of my conversations, because now I am a parent myself, it's gone into parenting and conversations around that, which is awesome because a lot of my audience, a lot of people out there are parents.
Yep.
And a lot of this stuff isn't spoken about. Like the cheating and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, who really speaks about that?
It's not something that I've spoken about a lot, but it's also not something that I'm hiding away from. Like if I can, the way I'm now living life is by example. So like I fucked up with a lot of things, hence why I said like the failed ex-husband. Like there's a lot of things I wish I hadn't done in life, but I'm also like, give myself a break. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, but now as I go and I progress and I find out more about, why I did the things that I did and how I can improve and, how I can be a better parent, how I can be, a better coach, how I can be a better friend. It's all of these things. It's a constant evolve of growth and education. I'm like, I'm going to share that with as many people as possible from a kind of lived experience that, okay, life isn't fucking easy. Like I have this saying, it's like hustle to happiness. And it's not in the sense that work, hustle. I do a lot of that. But the hustle to happiness for me is happiness isn't easy. Like it doesn't come easy to a lot of people. But once you start working on it, once you know the things that you can do, I hear you speak about gratitude a lot. Simple things like that, like starting a day from a place of gratitude, then snowballs for the rest of the day. It's listening to music or a podcast or something that, makes you happy. Something, just these little things that I'm slowly learning that, happiness doesn't come easy to a lot of people. There's a lot of darkness in the world. There's a lot of problems. It doesn't have to be that way. Like if you can find what works for you and what helps and what, takes you out of that black, dark area, happiness is there. It's a hustle. You have to work on it every day, 100%. And, I listened to a podcast the other day and they were saying that 75% of our thoughts are negative. They just come as standard. Like whether we're programmed that way or I'm not sure the exact reason why, but it's like if 75% of your thoughts are negative, that means 25% positive. You have to work to if not balance that out, it means you have to work harder at putting the positive thoughts in there, looking at the things of gratitude. Like we have so much to be grateful for in life. Like we're here, we're breathing air. There's so many people who aren't here. There's so many people in this world right now who the luxury of having fucking electricity. Just those simple things that we, and I don't want to say the Western society because it's all over the world. There's certain people. It's like, why let life get you down? So many people who are in such a bad position and they would kill to have what you have and you're constantly thinking negative about it. Just switch that, just change that mentality of life's not easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. It doesn't have to be as miserable. It doesn't have to be as dark as a lot of things are. I mean, social media and the news and everything, it's programmed that way, and we all know this. Take that out of your life. The reason I took the radio out of my truck 3 years ago.
I don't even watch the news anymore.
Never. I don't. I have these conversations with people and they're like, more people were to do that and grow and learn about themselves and pick something, learn something. Like for instance, 4 years ago, you weren't podcasting. No. Look at what you've grown. Look at this. You built a podcast studio. Your podcasts are going on. Pick something, learn something. We live in a world where, yes, technology can bring us down because we're stuck to it, but there's also unlimited information. Instead of scrolling, you can be teaching yourself.
It's just a tool. It's how you use it.
Yeah, exactly that. It's exactly that. And it's can change people's perceptions of that and help them improve themselves or help them, if they've got a problem, fix it. It's a very simplistic way of looking at it because obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, but you start out that way of wanting to improve. You start out that way of thinking definitely a lot easier than being down in the dumps, fucking hating life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Every morning I do my gratitude when I'm driving to work.
Yep.
Okay, what am I grateful for today, and what are my intentions for today? But prior to that, get up, go to the gym, meditation, breath work, like all these little modalities that just set you up for a good day.
Yep.
Instead of, so many tradies, they get up, they go to work in the dark, they come home in the dark. They don't do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
They wonder why they're miserable.
Yeah. And they'll spring out of bed and like they'll grab a coffee or a V on the way to work and they're just chasing themselves all day. And something that I preach is like, get up, be thankful for something exactly like you did. Gratitude. Start your day how you want the day to go on. Get up and you're chasing yourself, you sleep in and you're fucking running through traffic and you're effing and blind in traffic. That's how your day is going to progress. There's no light. Whereas, something that I've learned and I utilize is just stopping for 5 minutes and, box breathing. I used to drive to work and my back would be in bits. My chest would be so tight because I'd be thinking of everything that I've got coming up. Like, as a site manager, you've got like deliveries, you've got like, will such and such turn up today or, this got to be finished, and there's a lot of pressure in trades. Like, I'm not denying that. But if you're able to just stop for 5 minutes a day and 2 or 3 times a day if you need to, just regulate yourself. Just, bring yourself to where you are. Focus. Box breathing for me, I can't preach it high enough. I can use this. I used to get to site and I would be ready to go. The anxiety would be gone. The tight chest would be gone. The pain in the back would be gone. And I was like, right, okay, let's ready. Let's go. Hit the day running. And there's no reason why we can't do that as trades. Like most trades in Sydney have at least half an hour, 10-hour drive. Yeah. Turn the fucking radio off. Like, do not listen to the radio. Like, put podcast, put your favorite album on, put something on so that when you get to work, you're there and you're not hating it. And it's that shift of like, you're going to get to work and there's going to be people who are hating it. Why would you want to be one of them? Like, get to work, let their negativity just wash off you. Why would you want to go there and join that club of fucking this and hating this and blah, blah, blah? Because that's just like, you're surrounding yourself with those people day in, day out. Don't be one of them. And when I got that mind shift change, I looked at everything completely different. It was like, things would happen on site and big guys running around and how are you so fucking calm? I'm like, anybody died today? No, it's like we spilled concrete or, the wall's been built in the wrong place or whatever. It's like, take it down, we'll start again. Like, realistically, okay, yes, we've got timetables and, there's money factors to it, but it's like, realistically, if nobody has died and we get to just restart and come back, what the fuck is the problem? Like, why are we so stressed out? And, like, I see so many site managers and, like, older guys just raging, veins popping out their head. I'm like, you cannot be enjoying life. Like, how can you do that 10, 12, 15 hours a day just constantly screaming and shouting at people? Like, what does your life look like when you go home? And they're the ones who are probably going to be a lot harder to put this through to. Like, the older guys are, because of the stigma that comes with opening up, this is definitely going to be a lot harder to get to. It doesn't put me off having these conversations with them. But if you can get to them and you can change their mentality, then, we're kind of halfway there. But then on the flip side of that, it's the apprentices, the young guys coming up. If I can teach them the tools that I've learned as a tradesman, as, that broken man kind of thing that we all have, I can teach them the tools that, hey, this is what I have learned. That right now you're 21, you're 22, you think you're invincible. I get it. I was there. But it's like in 10 years' time when you have started your own business or you've got your own family or, you're everything that we do, I can give them the tools. If they can find the tools themselves so that when that comes up, they can regulate themselves. They can manage their anxiety or their depression more, or they can even just the stress management. Like, if they can not be completely stressed out, they'll be able to handle themselves better and they'll be able to hopefully not fall into the same rut that we all have done. And I think there's a reason that there's not so many apprentices going into our trade. I think the apprenticeships has dropped a lot. There's a big push to get apprentices back. So hopefully between the older guys and the younger guys, we can split the message. We'll have an impact. Yeah. You mentioned,
giving the tools to these apprentices and people in the workforce. What would you say are some of your top tools that have really helped you along this journey?
Yeah. So the main one is, as I said, breath work and meditation. Just taking 5 minutes to just 5 minutes for you to just refocus, recalibrate. Like when you're running from pillar to post and you've got people calling you, and I've had it, like the phone just does not stop as a site manager. Doesn't mean you can't take 5 minutes to go and sit in the fucking port loop or go and sit in your car and just sit, turn everything off and just take time for yourself. So whether it's sit and listen to guided meditation or just sitting, closing your eyes and just, the breath work for me is the box breathing of the breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. That it's almost like there's just like this grayness of the madness of the day just drops and everything becomes clear. So that's a definite one because you can think a lot clearer and it just calms you down. Another one that I call is you leave your boots and shirt at the door. Okay. So when you get home and I learned this from, I think it was a podcast that I listened to, and it was an American police officer. So at the end of every shift, he would take his gun and his badge, and he had I think it was a box inside his door, and he would put it, and whatever happened throughout the day, obviously the cops see a lot of shit, whatever it was, would stay there with his badge and his gun. Take a breath, you go into his house as the dad or the husband. So I utilize that with the trades, and it's like when you kick your boots off before you go into the house, or before you open that door, take 5 minutes, stop, breathe, whatever has went throughout the day, whether it was an argument on site or you're stressed out about whatever it is, leave it there. Go into the house and be present, wife, kids, business, wherever it is you're doing, so that you have that disconnect. And it's not an easy thing to do, especially for certain trades where they're on call for 24/7, but give yourself that disconnect from work, and vice versa, flip it in the morning. So if you've had a shit night with your partner, you're arguing, or the kids have been up all night, or whatever it is, leave that there so you're not taking it to site and taking that animosity from the house back onto site so that you kick off your day fucking arguing, fighting, whatever it may be. That one, I start to do that myself. So like I would, before I would get home or before I would go and pick up the kids, I would stop no matter where I was, side of the road, and just have 5 minutes to myself and just take in everything and just leave it, regulate what it was that I had happened through the day. And then I pick up the kids as dad. I wasn't the angry site manager, or I wasn't, Huey or whatever. I was dad. I was Aaron, the husband. And, towards the end, it became a lot more difficult because obviously my head was in different spaces. But that one is just having that disconnect from whatever your work life is to your home life. Because by all means, go home and, vent to your partner or like express about your day. But they're not there to take your shit. Yep. Like a lot of people say, I don't want to talk about work, but I'll go home and, your partner's not there to take in your shit from day. Like there's people at work that really need to have that. So whether it's, and that doesn't just go for trades. Like that goes for anything, office work, hospital work, wherever it is. Your partner's there to be your space of comfort. Don't vent and get all your shit out. Like that's not up to them to take on, because then that's something that they have to carry around as well. And I think that's quite a big one. With the trades also, I think it's having goals. Like I think it's having something else that puts in perspective why you're doing what you're doing. Don't just have it as this is my end all and be all. Like you need to have, it might just even just be a holiday at the end of the year. Like, you need to have something to look forward to. It needs to be something that you're working towards rather than just Friday beers at the pub. And what I get is, I don't need coaching because I got my mates at the pub. Like, that's awesome. The social aspect of that is awesome. But what that is, an echo chamber of 5 or 6 guys who are probably in the exact same position. They got, bad marriages, or they're like failed marriages, or they've got, alcohol problems, and they just want to go to the pub. And what you're doing is you're just going around in the same fucking echo chamber of soup. Nobody's actually fixing anything in their life.
Masking their pain.
Pretty much. It's just, yes, you're getting it out. More beers, we're all good. Whereas if you'd actually implement yourself and invest in yourself and actually, fix it, you would be one of the 5 that could go in and say, right, boys, like, this is what I'm doing. You can have that impact on those guys to then go. And what we'll find is there'll be a lot of guys who'll take the piss out of you for doing it. And, those, what are you doing trying to make it better for yourself? Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what he's doing. And if that's the type of people that you have, they're not the type of people that you want to have around. You need to look at who you have around you. If you really want to change your life, and, those 5 guys at the pub, they're still going to be there next Friday. They're probably going to be there for the next fucking Fridays to come. But unless you have something bigger in your life that you want to take out, you're just going to keep going back to that. So when I hear the guys say, I've got the guys about, it's just an echo chamber. It's just the same shit. Be the one that steps up and goes, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to drink this weekend. I'm going to, or run, or I'm going to get on the bike, or I'm going to do something else. And then, find that either, the ones who see the benefit of what you're doing, they'll come along. And then that's your support network. And then, find other people within your support network. Find other people to help you as well. Because a lot of people feel that they do this on their own. That's something else that us men are great at doing. We don't have anybody to express this stuff to because, it's frowned upon. It's a stigma about opening up. But there's so many places out there. Like, you only just need to Google, like, men's groups or men's circles. And, like, there's so many. I can join one. Like, it doesn't have to be something that I put on. It doesn't have to be, you don't even have to tell anybody about it. If, like, you can do them online. Like, now, you don't even have to be on camera. You can just be there. It's a safe space. There's, other guys who you'll find in the exact same position as you. They'll probably have the exact same stories. And then it feels a lot easier for those that think that they're going through it, because there's a lot of people that think that they're the only ones that are going through this, and it's not true. More conversation you have with people, you'll find that, like, yeah, I feel that, I'm wasting my life away, or I've got nothing to live for, or, there's no one in my, there's nobody there that understands me. It's like, I just haven't looked hard enough. There's so much out there for guys. And also you need to lose that ego of, if I speak up, I'm weak. That's one thing that we see a lot in our, like, just in general, like this. If you keep it in, it's that kind of, she'll be right mentality. What you find is that the more you do actually speak up and open up and have, like, conversations like this, people, it resonates with them, and it gives them the kind of belief to think, okay, fuck, well, maybe I'm not the only one. And it'll help you too. Like, it gets it off your chest. It gives you the support network that you need, but you're helping somebody else.
Yeah, I say a lot of the time, vulnerability breeds vulnerability, and there's massive strength in that.
Yep.
If the more that we can open up and have these conversations, the more people are going to feel more comfortable in opening up on their own stuff. And banter's great. There's a time and place for banter. There's a time and place to go to the pub, have a few drinks, whatever the case is. But that's all you're doing. You're not having those below surface conversations.
Yep.
So when shit does hit the fan, you're not going to your mates to speak to them about what's happening.
Yeah.
You're just sinking beers and masking all your pain.
Yep.
Yeah. If you went out, you had banter, but you actually spoke to them about what was going on. You had those below surface conversations. You built that trusting relationships there. When shit did hit the fan, you knew who to go to. You could open up to your friends. Instead of bottling it all up and having the mentality of, oh, she'll be right, suck it up, I'll deal with it myself. It's me against the world kind of mentality.
Yeah.
That's why men go down dark holes.
100%.
And a lot of the times they don't come out. But if we can be preventative, build the relationships, give these men the tools that they need. You use tools every day on work site.
Yeah, 100%.
What about the tools for your mind?
Yeah.
It's the little things that we can implement each and every day. There's a lot of awareness out there when it comes to mental health.
Yes.
Men know that shit may not be going right in their life. They have that awareness. But it's like they can't pinpoint what it is, and I think a lot of the time they don't understand it themselves, so they don't know how to actually speak about it.
Yeah, well, that's it.
They can't process what's actually happening.
Yeah, so they might know that something's not going right for them, but they don't know where to turn, or they don't know how to verbalize it, and that's why we need to have more education about this. Like, there's so much work going on right now in this space, which is great. Like, but we also need the guys to actually put their hand up. Like, so like for me, I think I have something that's the 4 stages of change. The 4 stages to change or growth is awareness, being aware of what's actually going on in your life or what's not working for you, or, and that could be you, or it could be the situation that you're in, or the environment that you have. But then you need to take ownership and say, okay, fuck this. I need to do something different. Like, I need to fix myself, or I need to take myself away from a situation, or I need to open up about something, or I need to have a conversation. I need to say something. I need to take ownership of we have so many people who live in victim mentality. They blame the world. You can do that till the cows come home, but until you take ownership of where you are and say, right, okay, enough is enough. I can't live like this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. I need to do something different. And then they need to get the education. So that's the third part. Like, they need to be educated on, okay, one, you're not alone. Like, there's so many people out here. This is the road that you can take. There's many different roads, whether it's like counseling, psychology, coaching, like personal development. There's so much education. It's unreal. Like, if people would look. But then the final one is accountability. You need to have somebody, whether that's a peer group or whether that's a coach or a mentor or somebody, because we're all very good at saying, I'll go to the gym this week. I'll do that next week. I'll put this off, or, I'm going to do this home improvement, or I'll read this book because I know it's going to be good for me. We're all very well in doing that. And no, I do it myself.
We've all done it.
100%. But once you have the accountability of somebody holding you accountable to it, saying, right, okay, how many pages of that book have you read? Or, how many laps of the swimming pool? Or did you go to the gym? You have that accountability on whether that's, you go on with somebody, that's what pushes you. That's what pushes you to change, and that's what keeps you accountable. Like, we all fall off the wagon. Everybody does it. But if you have someone there saying, right, okay, let's go. Back up at it. And that's where I think our men now, the tools are out there for them. Like, there's more information out there. There's so many men's groups, and there's no reason why we're not. There's no reason why men can't, other than taking ownership of their shit and saying, okay, enough is enough. And normally what happens if they don't get to that stage of saying, okay, it takes something to happen. For me, it was the death of my mates. It was like the breakdown of my marriage. Like, it's always a big thing where someone says, okay, fuck this, enough is enough. But if we can educate our guys that it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to get to that stage before you can change. You can do it now. Like, there's no reason why you can't invest in yourself. But they need to take ownership of it, and they need to have a reason for it. I'd like to think that it doesn't need to be that kind of breakdown in something, whether it's their mental health or their marriage or their job. But unfortunately, that's what it takes. It takes a big thing before people can say, okay, fuck this, something needs to change.
I think a lot of that is like the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
If they open up, will they be judged? What's going to happen? Yeah. If I go speak to a psychologist, are they going to put me on all this medication, and people are going to think I'm fucking loopy, and all these different thoughts.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. It's the stigma, even the stigma behind medication. Like, I was one of them. Like, I'm still medicated to this day. Like, I didn't want to go on medication, and I came off mine when I wasn't supposed to. When my ex-wife knew straight away, she's like, your mood's changed, like, you're completely different, and you've come off your meds. And I was like, yeah. She was like, why? Like, I had this big fucking ego. I was like, no, I was doing all this meditation and breath work. I was like, no, I want to fix myself properly, and like, I want to be able to, I'm a coach now. Like, I was on only like first year into this, but I was like, no, I'm doing all this Tony Robbins stuff. I'm doing all these eye shows. I'm doing all this. I want to fix myself, like, perfect. Like, I want to be able to do it myself.
Yeah.
She's like, I get that, but medication keeps you on a level. Like, as soon as you come off that, like, and it was like a fog. I'd have like the brain fog, and like, I wasn't able to think properly, and it just felt like, it's so weird. If anyone going through like depression or anxiety, they'll know this. It feels like everything just closes. You can't really focus. I used to have like a ringing in my ears and stuff, and as soon as I started taking the medication again, keep me on a level so that I was able to work properly. And I don't want to be on them forever, but for right now, it's keeping me at a level where I'm able to focus on myself. I'm able to, be present for my kids. I'm able to be who I want to be. And it's not going to be forever, and I know that. But it's that stigma around, you've got medication. Fuck, that means you're weak. No, it doesn't. If it helps you, can elevate you to a point where you can think properly, where you can function properly, you can actually, be you without having that kind of darkness. I'm all for it. Like, it's just, I don't want to be on them forever, I know that. But right now it's functioning, it's doing what I need it to do to get me to the next level. And we'll see what happens. Like, I'd like to try and use other modalities, something else that I don't have to be on them. But for right now, I know if I don't use them, I don't want to go back to the place that I was. And I know that they work because I've came off them twice, and each time I went back on them, it's kept me at a level. So
right now they're serving a purpose.
Exactly. And it's, if people can, if it's one less thing that I have to worry about right now, I'm more than happy. I've got other things that are obviously with coaching that's bigger than me. But like, if I'm able to function better for my kids, for my girlfriend, for myself, one less thing that I have to worry about, it is what it is. It's like you say, it's doing its purpose, it's doing its function.
That's it. Aaron, we could keep speaking all night.
Yeah, it feels like that.
We've nearly hit 2 hours. Where can the people find you, what you're doing, coaching, and have access to you?
I'm pretty much everywhere. So the Facebook's Aaron William Daniel Huey. Instagram is Coach to the Tradies, same, Aaron Huey. LinkedIn, Coach to the Tradies, Aaron Huey, and then I have a website. So the website is www.hustletalk.com. Again, that's the hustle thing that comes in for me. And yeah, reach out. Like, my main goal right now is getting in front of guys on sites. So presentations, I have a presentation that I do for guys, and then it's one-on-one coaching. Like, I really want to get with guys. The 4-hour presentations and the little, are you okay days, they're all awesome, but without actually getting to the root cause and getting the guys to really see what it is that's laid out in front of them and how they can improve it, I think that's the only way that we can help these guys. So yeah, they're the service, and please reach out. Like, if you have any questions or like any of this has resonated, I'm always like, DMs are always open.
Man, you're doing great work, and it's very much needed, especially in trade. So I want to say thank you for doing the work that you're doing, because you're having a massive impact. We have a closing tradition on the podcast where the previous guest leaves a guest question for the next guest without knowing who it is. Yeah. So the question for you is, and you've kind of answered it throughout today's conversation, but what's something that you do to get back on track when you fall off? Maybe something you haven't mentioned.
For me, it's thinking about the bigger purpose. Like, I know I can easily just stop doing what I'm doing and go and work as a tradie. Like, I know I could do that and that would pay the bills. But for me, it's becoming a better man for my kids, becoming a better partner, and becoming somebody that guys can look up to and say, if he can do it, I can do it. It's kind of, it's the thoughts of other people. It's like, if I stop now, who do I not impact? Who do I not become better for? And who can I not help, I guess, essentially.
Aaron, thank you, man.
Cheers, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.